When I was working in corporate America, one of the stories that became lucky is I was living in Florida and I was driving to a store in Daytona and I missed the exit. And I was like, I'll go ahead and turn around. And for some reason, something told me I need to drive to Jacksonville, which is another hour up the road. And I met this manager in this restaurant that I was managing at the time in Jacksonville, and he had a piece of paper he was working on. And he said, "What are you doing here? I thought you said you're going to be in Daytona." And I was like, I'm not really sure. I'm here, and let's hang out together today. Let's talk about what you're working on. Mm-hmm. Fast forward 6 months, we're at a conference, and he's like, "Hey, can I talk to you real quick?" He goes, "Yeah." He goes, "Remember that day you came into the restaurant and you weren't supposed to be there, but you were there and we hung out?" And he goes, "Yeah." He goes, "I was working on my resignation."
Wow.
And you showed up and you spent time. And because of that, I chose not to resign. And I just wanted to say thank you. Mm-hmm. And so there's moments like that when you're doing things and maybe you don't even know, but they're going to pay off.
But you're living for others. You're focused on them, their needs.
Yeah, it's a true 10 for 10 moment.
That's the opposite of what we think. We don't think of that as wisdom even. We almost think of that as unwise. It's actually unwise to think selfishly.
Yeah, you because you're thinking, "Oh, this is going to be an inconvenience for me, and I probably should turn around, and I'm going to get home later than I wanted to," and all these things that talk to you. But sometimes you just got to get through all of that noise and think, okay, is this a wise decision, and could it be helping somebody else?
Yes. Well, you talk about this, helping your clients go through this transition of wealth.
Sure.
That we're all about to experience over the next generation.
Yeah.
What does it look like practically? And why is purpose especially important in that season?
I think practically, so transitional wealth, we're going through it right now, and we have this greatest generation of baby boomers. And there is going to be, over the course, it's kind of starting right now, over the course of the next 10 to 15 years, where there's going to be a transition as they leave their wealth to their children and to another generation. And it's going to involve probably real estate. So I sell real estate for a living, of course, and I want to be able to help them make those wise decisions so that they understand what the plan looks like. Whether or not you're on the giving side of it or you're on the receiving side of it, what does that look like? And if you're receiving it, how are you going to handle that money with stewardship? And if you're on the giving side, how can you give it so that you're not putting an unnecessary tax burden on everybody else within the family? And so from the purpose standpoint, I try not to let the noise of the morning daily headlines of what's currently going on today in our headlines, because it can certainly wrap you up in a weird place. But over the next 2 to 3, administrations, this transition of wealth is going to happen. So I'm not really too concerned about today as I am, how are we going to make sure we take care of all these events for people down the road? And I think that's truly what somebody in my position who cares about people and wants to help make people make wise decisions. It doesn't necessarily mean you're going to get a payday tomorrow out of it, but it's a faith thing because I love what I'm doing so much that hopefully others want to participate.
Yeah. If I am one of these recipients of all of this wealth, why is my character, why are these 10 shots so important in living out my purpose? Yeah,
because you need to be able to think about, on this keynote piece I have a little white space on the handout, and I don't even make people in the speech that are sitting there that day fill that out. My call to action is before you go to bed tonight, look at the person in the mirror and think about what this purpose is, and take 2 minutes to yourself and do that. And so what transitioning it all back to what we were talking about is if you don't have a purpose for yourself to help other people make wise decisions, and you get this gift of wealth, you may not use it wisely, and you may squander it away, and then you've got nothing to give to anybody else. Or maybe that's another generation down the road, or maybe that's just putting your message out to people here.
Yeah.
I make a living selling real estate, but this keynote 10 for 10 and purpose and ultimately a book, it's all been funded by my ability to sell real estate.
Yeah.
And, because that's the gift that I want to give back, and talking about what is such a powerful word, in my opinion, that people don't spend enough time talking about it.
Yeah. I think the character within is being developed over the process of discipline that you're giving to people in this book and through your speeches, so that they're able to spend that money on the right things.
I hope so. Yeah, that's ultimately the goal. And it's this these 10 shots, they're supposed to mirror your life, and purpose is about you and how you can live your life. And it wasn't meant to be, here's 10 steps. If you follow these steps, you're going to be a millionaire. This is just your life. And if you can understand, sure, it's easy to win, right? If you're making shot after shot after shot, it's easy to win. But what does it feel like when you miss? Right? And what does it feel like when you have to maybe take a step back? Just kind of like yesterday when my publisher was telling me, here's 18 things you need to work on under your book, right? You sometimes get pushed back a little bit, but you can make a decision. You can say, well, I'm just going to give up and not pursue it. Or you're going 10 for 10. And it's like, okay, here's a miss. I know what I need to do. I know what my promises need to be. I know what I need to focus on my practice. And I'm just going to keep going.
Wow. How do you respond?
How do you respond?
Comes? Yes.
Right. Yeah. It's easy to do things, when you're winning, but what is it that you do when things happen to you, right? How do you respond?
Yeah. I think we need a book like yours.